It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show.
Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 188. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is Sunday, July 12th, 2026, a great day for a podcast about video games and more. I hope you're doing great out there in the world, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Thank you for being here. The first order of business is to ask you to follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast, so find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch replays and games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, Patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime for any amount if you would like to support the show. Now, today's show will have three sections as always. The first section, I'll tell you about what video games I've been playing since I've last talked to you on this microphone. The mid section, which is not mid in quality, it's the middle of the show. That's where I tell you everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And third and final section, the Miscellaneous Talk section, a break from all the video game talk, where I like to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. And my favorite team today, the Atlanta Braves, are closing out the first half of the season against the Cardinals, going into the All-Star break. So we'll talk some more about that at the end. But I'm recording this morning and plenty of time to watch the Braves later. They're about 5 hours away in real time from when I'm recording this podcast here on this lovely Sunday morning. So welcome to the show. I really do hope you're doing great out there, and let's get it started. So what have I been playing since I've last talked to you on this microphone? Well, the main game that I've been playing, as has been the case since this game has released, has been Forza Horizon 6. And in the last week, I have gotten the highest wristband access, so I have gold wristband. I've been talking on this podcast, unable to remember if it's headbands or wristbands. I don't know why I think it would be headbands, but I would like to confirm today that it is wristbands, and I am 7 out of 7. Once you unlock the last wristband, it does put some more icons on your map, and most of those were like races across the entire map or across the entire regions, and that was extremely fun to do. So I somewhat feel like I put a little bit of a bow on this game, or I was feeling that way after completing all the primary races. I still have like a couple races on the map that I haven't gotten first place in, but I finished second, maybe just on 2 or 3 of them. And then a lot of the stuff that I have left to do are just some of the drifting things, some of the experience boards, and those are really the main things that I have left. So I'm a little bit of a point of, hey, maybe I'll take a break, or maybe I'll keep going into some of these things on a little more of a granular level. I did find that you can sort the map by region, which is pretty nice. So that could be a good way to start going through and completing some of the sections completely if I want to. But I do feel like, I'm around the 70-hour mark. I feel like I've probably done about 90% of what I like to do in these games. So, I'm getting pretty close to, maybe hitting a pause on it, but we will see how that goes kind of in the upcoming week. There's not going to be any new icons added to the map, I don't believe. So, what I have now is what I have left. And, I've had nothing but fun with this game. So maybe I should try to push forward a little bit more. But the things that I have left are mainly in regards to the drifting, which I still feel like I'm not very good at, but I do think I'm getting a little bit better at it. So I think the upcoming week will really be a good indicator of, how I'm feeling with this game, of how complete I'm feeling, and if I want to keep continuing. So I have to kind of keep feeling that out, because I did feel like I hit a good, almost a good ending note, I would say, for this game. But what else do I want to say about this game at this point? I've almost completed all the mascots. I feel like there's a couple on the map that are missing. So I'm not sure when those are going to pop up or where they are. So that's something I might want to look into a little bit more. I do have a good bit of the experience boards to get still. And I think the best way to maybe go try to start tackling those is by breaking it down by region. But because a lot of the experience boards that I haven't gotten so far are ones that are on top of buildings. So you have to find like a interesting way to jump up there ramp off a cliff or something that's close by. So they take a little more finesse and time. I did a couple of them yesterday, and it definitely took me a bunch of tries, at least 10 tries, to try to get up on top of that house that I was trying to get on. But those are the main things that I have left in this game. And, I've just been having so much fun with this game. I really have nothing bad to say. I'm a little bit it's a little bit bittersweet once you get to the end of some of these things because it is so much fun. But, I had nothing but a 10 out of 10 time with this game. I have around 5 million in credits at the moment. So I'm a little bit hesitant to spend that money just in case I end up needing a certain car for a particular event. But, I kind of think, I've seen everything that's laid out in this game. So I might, well, I guess if I do want to complete things, you need to go around the map and buy all the cars that are for sale. So I did buy like a car for 50K yesterday. And when I was doing that, I was like, hey, maybe I should hold on to my money a little bit if I do try to complete this game some more. So I think the upcoming week, well, I guess with anything, I can always change my mind on stuff, but, I'm going to see how much I play this game in the upcoming week after feeling like I've completed a good portion of it. My favorite cars in this game have still been the same ones kind of from the beginning. My two favorites are the 911 Turbo S 2023 Porsche and the X6 M Competition 2024 BMW. I actually labeled these as my favorites in the game, so you can label cars your favorite, and then you can filter out your favorites, which is pretty fun to do if you are primarily using the same couple cars for driving around. I've used a bunch of different cars for different races and different events and things like that, but if I have the free roam going on, these are the two cars that I'm most likely wanting to drive around in the most. So Forza Horizon 6, a wonderful video game. It's the best game of the year for 2026 for the Dep Lewis Show at this moment, and I think it's a really, really strong contender to hold on to that award until the end of the year. So that is my Forza Horizon 6 update for this week. I've completed all the wristbands. I still have, I think I'm 5 out of 7 on or maybe 6 out of 7 on the story mode completion side of things, but some of those story modes, they'll be, hey, go, peruse the scenic landscape, but then involved in the other tiers of them are often some drifting, what's the word, events, I guess, or something like that. So I'm not good at the drifting, and I feel like I don't know if I'm getting better or if I'm missing something, so I'm a little bit iffy on how much I want to push towards there, but I do need to get better at the drifting, that's for sure. But Forza Horizon 6, wonderful video game, and I do feel like I'm getting, to the end, or if not close to the end of everything I'd like to complete currently. But a wonderful video game, and lived up to the hype and actually exceeded the hype. I think the Japan setting was super nice. I have no complaints with any of the cars or anything in the game. All the open world stuff is fun, and maybe I'll continue to keep having fun with this game in the future. All right, and what else have I been playing in the past week? That's really been the majority of what I've been playing. I also played a little bit of Pokemon Violet over the weekend, so I picked that up after about a week off there. I haven't done anything significant in Pokemon Violet except going around the map, riding around on Miraidon, which is fun, collecting some collectibles, and fighting enemies, and trying to get I guess it's a Florigato, since my Sprigatito has evolved, and ranking up. I think I'm around level 18 or something like that, and I don't feel too powerful yet. So I've been, having some struggles out there fighting in the world. The open world has a lot of enemies in certain sections, so it's hard to not run into an enemy sometimes, especially if you're riding around on Miraidon, because it makes your, hitbox bigger or whatever. But I do like the open world nature of this game. It really does feel open, almost more like a Breath of the Wild. There are 3 different main objective categories. So one of them is the 8 gyms, and then there's 2 other sections of the story that when you pull up the map, it has 3 main sections of how far you completed. And I've completed nothing. I do need to look at what's the best first gym to go after, because I think that's the best place for me to start. But so far early in this game, I've just been trying to level up my Pokemon a bit. I haven't really rounded out my party in any significant way yet, so I still have a lot of slots on my party for cool Pokemon, but I want to I like being over leveled in these games as much as possible, and I do have fun doing the leveling, and that's kind of what I was doing so far in this game. So, not a giant update on Pokemon Violet, but I have picked some more, picked that game up some more in the past week, especially after, playing Forza Horizon 6 for a major chunk earlier in the week, up until the weekend. So that's really been the main things that I've been playing. It's been, just a lot of Forza Horizon 6 over here, and that's been extremely fun. And that kind of does have me thinking I want to try to get, at least poke at a little bit of the stuff I have left and see if I could start completing some of it. I don't know how much I'd be willing to bash my head against it or really, I don't know. I feel like there could possibly be a trick that I'm missing to the drifting that maybe once I learn, I'll be able to complete some of these things and we will see. So, you'll most likely be hearing some more about some Forza Horizon 6, and you will definitely be hearing some more about some Pokemon on this show in the future. So those are the two main games I've been playing, Forza Horizon 6 and Pokemon Violet. This is the year of the front log on the Dep Lewis Show, so I'm not, I'm not worrying about my backlog. I'm not trying to go back into the beginning of a franchise unless I want to. And the two main games on my front log for this year are Marvel's Wolverine on September 15th and Grand Theft Auto 6 on November 19th. So two giant releases that I'm very excited about, and I'm sure there will be some other games that get added to the front log as we go. But those are the two that, on the release day that I'm going to be most excited to play to close out this year. So that's everything going on with me. That's all my video gaming updates from the past week. Played Forza Horizon 6, Pokemon Violet, and we talked a little bit about the year of the front log. So that is everything for this first section of the show. And we are going to take a quick break, listen to some lovely break music, and come back for the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 188 after this. Welcome back to the midsection of Dep Lewis Show. This is where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And the first one is an update on one of my favorite games of all time and a Dep Lewis Game of the Year award winner, and that's Splatoon 3. And I just want to make you aware, especially for those who are listening real time, that there's a Splatfest going on right now. I did not participate in the Splatfest yet this weekend. I don't know if I will. I really don't know why. I guess just because I've been playing more Forza Horizon 6. But I do always like to highlight when these are going on. It's a weekend theme for a Splatoon. That is one of the most fun times to jump in and play some Splatoon 3. So the current Splatfest going on today is a Splatoon Raiders themed one, since that game is releasing very soon, which I'll talk about in just a second. And the main question for this Splatfest going on currently is, what's your fighting style, speed, power, or tactics? So I think if I was talking about like my fighting style in Splatoon, it would have to be on the speed side of things. I definitely like being quick. I use like a boost to go through the ink, so I think that would be most natural and probably would be the team that I would pick. I think maybe if I had to pick like a real life style, maybe it would be on the power side. I'm definitely not speedy in real life, and tactics can sometimes elude me as well in real life. So I had a little bit of a conundrum there of if I do pick something, what do I pick? And I was leaning team speed. I think team power was up in the midway. I did check into that at some point, so I'll have to report back to you next week of who is the winner of the current Splatoon 3 Splatfest. So that's going on currently. If you listen to this podcast early in the day, you'll still have some time to get in there and rep for one of your teams if you would like to. All right, so this is a Splatoon Raiders a little bit themed Splatfest, and that is because Splatoon Raiders is releasing, I guess not in the upcoming week, but the following one. It's releasing exclusively for Nintendo Switch 2 on July 23rd. Splatoon Raiders is going to be $49.99 USD's digital, and I guess $10 more physical if you want to buy that as well. In Splatoon Raiders, you're going to hunt for treasure in a wild adventure. In the single-player focused game, play as a mechanic working with Deep Cut, a trio of swashbuckling musicians, and venture out into the mysterious Spherolite Islands. Customize your character, kit yourself out with mechanical gadgets and ink-splattering weapons, and take on waves of enemy salmonids as you raid the islands for treasure. So I am a multiplayer Splatoon player primarily. Like 98% of my Splatoon, or maybe 99% of my Splatoon playing has been multiplayer. I've never really gotten hooked on the single player, so that is kind of a reason that I would not have this on my front log. But I'm excited to see what people think about this. I really enjoy Splatoon as a franchise, and wanted to make you aware that Splatoon Raiders is coming out very, very soon. All right, what else is going on? Nintendo Switch Online has added some games to their service, and the Game Boy section has got 3 new games, Fortified Zone, Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3, and The Sword of Hope 2. So I think Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3 is the highlight there. And then for the Game Boy Advance, which you have to pay for the expansion pack to be able to access the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo Switch Online and the Nintendo Switch Classics, but you can now play Dr. Mario and Puzzle League. So that is I guess like a combo platter of a game, but I'm not sure because I know Dr. Mario is standalone. I don't know if Puzzle League is another game in the package or if it meshes into Dr. Mario in some way to make like a different experience. But, Dr. Mario is very fun in general, so I imagine this entry is fun as well. So those are a couple additions to Nintendo Switch Online that are available right now. One update on Nintendo on one of their mobile games is that the mobile game is ending, and it's Mario Kart Tour. So this mobile game is ending service on September 29th, so just a couple months left to play Mario Kart Tour if you would like to. I played this for maybe 20 minutes when it first came out or maybe never even tried this. I think I played Mario Run, which I think has an offline version. I think a couple of their games have offline versions, but this one does not. And there's no offline version planned, is the word on Mario Kart Tour. This first released in 2019. I was reading some articles that were saying, hey, this is really a bad look for Nintendo, but I can't imagine this was that successful. And seems to me, my initial take was, yeah, okay, I don't think anyone's going to be too upset by this. But, I read one article saying that, hey, this is bad news. Nintendo is canceling. They don't necessarily cancel games a lot. But, I'm not really sure how many people were working on that game, how many people were still supporting that game currently. And I just don't take that one as a sign of anything really bad. I kind of forgot Mario Kart Tour was even going on, is my take on it. But Mario Kart Tour is ending service on September 29th. There's news there. All right, in the past week, a game has released. This one is a remake of a game that released in 2013, and that is Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And this one's called Resynced, is the new version. This released on July 9th, so just a couple days ago for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and Steam. It's $59.99 USD's digital. The iconic solo pirate adventure returns. Sail the Caribbean as Edward Kenway during the golden age of piracy, and this faithfully enhanced remake featuring stunning visuals, upgraded gameplay, and new content. So that's available right now. Everything I've seen from this, it looks like a very nice remake. It just looks shiny and new. I guess they say they've upgraded some of the gameplay in there, which could be nice to make it feel a little more modern. But the other thing I've heard from this game is, hey, this is going to remind people of why people really love Assassin's Creed. And I guess there was some point, I don't know if it's like oversaturation or whatever it is, but there's been a ton of entries in the Assassin's Creed franchise. And this is definitely a fan favorite, or if not just the overall favorite for a lot of people for the entire franchise. So a really good game to bring back. And I was watching Vinny from Nextlander play this. Vinny and Alex were playing it on their Friday stream, and they were saying, hey, this is going to make people miss some of the older Assassin's Creed and wonder why they aren't doing this in the future. So, maybe they're getting the hint themselves by re-releasing this and putting the polish into it and having a little bit of a refresher on, what people enjoyed from the franchise back in the day. And I think you have to kind of stay true to that, along with blending some new stuff in there to really keep these things going in a significant way for the future. And, maybe that's what they're setting up to do, but I don't really mind these resyncs or remakes or remasters. I think it's a nice option to have, especially if the original game's not being changed up too much. I don't mind if the game gets changed either, but, just having a new coat of paint with some new features and quality of life improvements and making it a little bit more modern is always a nice option for some of these older games, according to me. So Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced is available right now if you'd like to go purchase that. All right, what else is going on that I want to tell you about? The Nintendo Switch 2 is getting a updated version with a removable battery in Europe. So there are some regulations in Europe that are requiring this, and Nintendo is having to, update their hardware to fit those requirements. And along with this, they are announcing that they're going to cancel the Switch 1 line of consoles as getting discontinued in Europe, as they are not going to go back and, I guess, retroactively fit those older consoles with, or update the older console SKU with removable batteries for, new ones being produced. So they're going to switch everything over to these removable battery versions in Europe and only be moving to the Nintendo Switch 2 is the big news there. We did talk about the removable, we talked about the LCD screen. There's a rumored revision to the LCD screen. So I don't know if that goes along with this revision in Europe or not, but those are seemingly two different things going on right now that have just been talked about in the last couple of weeks. So Europe, look out there for a new Nintendo Switch 2 with a removable battery. And that's nice for, the longevity of the console. And, a lot of the takes on this I've heard are, hey, this is a nice win for the consumers over there. And hopefully we will see something similar across the globe, and more consumer-friendly practices is always welcome with a lot of these companies. All right, so that's pretty much all the good video game news for the week, and all the fun releases and stuff to talk about. So now we're going to get into some more of the dire, or more troubling, or sad, or not as fun to talk about video game news that happens a lot. With these we're kind of getting to the layoff talk here, as happens a lot on this show. So the first update, though, before we get to the, mass layoff talk, is an update on IO Interactive. So this is an update in regards to Project Fantasy, which was, in limbo in the last few weeks. And IO Interactive has a new update in regards to Project Fantasy, which I do not know too much about, but it is a new IP that IO Interactive is creating. So the statement from IO Interactive is, following the end of our external finance partnership, IO Interactive has regained full ownership of the project and our IP. We will continue to develop and fund it independently amongst our other projects. With this context, we had to find a new balance for the long-term future of the studio, focused on the success of our main internal core titles instead of external projects and potential mobile game derivatives. This has meant making changes as well as proposed changes across our studio, the closure of our Istanbul studio, and starting a process to part ways with colleagues who have been a meaningful part of what makes IO Interactive what it is. So, the first thing there is definitely T's and P's, thoughts and prayers to anyone who has lost their job, especially those in the Istanbul studio. I hope all those people can land on their feet, would be my wish there. But we're seeing this more and more across the video game world. It seems like a pile-on effect that every company is just getting on board with this, of saying, hey, this is a great time to revise our strategy, let some people go, save some cost, and focus. And I just think my biggest takeaway from this is like a copycat thing almost. Or how did all of these companies get in such a bad way that they're all having to do these reductions at the same time? It's just a little bit wild and makes it seem a little bit less genuine of like a real concern. I can get that these companies can mismanage something, but how can every single developer, every single company be mismanaging things so poorly? It's just like a really, really wild thing to see. And I think is an example of, expecting just growth always. And I just don't think that's how the world works in any ways. And it's befuddling and all those kind of words of how that keeps happening. Especially, I look at these companies and developers all the time and talk about them on the show, and it's the same damn thing with all of them. And it's always a restructuring, a refocusing. We're trying to get back to the meaningful core. Hey, we spread ourselves too thin, blah, 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 blah. And it's just wild to see. I guess it's just a very, very common thing out there in the world. So a little bit of an update on IO Interactive and Project Fantasy. It's seemingly still, in development and might see the light of day someday. All right, the biggest portion of the negative news this week is in regards to Xbox. So Xbox is having some of the worst couple weeks of PR and news and outlook for their future. Everything after the Xbox showcase has gone to the trash can. And we've been talking about these rumors of layoffs for a long time, and this week some of these things are becoming extremely official. So we're going to read an email from Asha Sharma to all employees at Xbox. Asha Sharma is the new CEO at Xbox after, I guess she's been there a couple months now. And we're going to get into some corporate quotes, which are really fun to read for me, and we can kind of discuss what's going on here. So in regards to the Xbox layoffs, the email from Asha Sharma to the employees at Xbox. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but a couple of the paragraphs I find most important. Team, we are beginning the most significant restructure in Xbox history. And I really do. One of my critiques is they changed the spelling of Xbox recently, where it's all capital, and you see that in all their marketing, and it just makes me cringe a little bit every time I see this as like I guess a superfluous change of like something unnecessary that they were, trying to do. Like, we're going to return to games. We're making this all capital. We're staying strong. And then they're like gutting their entire business and are seemingly, or they're definitely in a bad way, is my take on Xbox. Whether they have a couple statements in here that make it sound positive, they are in a bad way over there at Xbox is the reality of the situation. So they are beginning the most, continuing with this quote. We are beginning the most significant restructure in Xbox history. After careful consideration, I've made the difficult decision to reduce our team by approximately 3,200 people throughout the fiscal year of 2027. This will include approximately 1,600 role eliminations today, which have already happened. And in addition, 4 studios will leave Xbox to new management. I recognize that a year-long restructure creates additional challenges. Yes, it does. That's a terrible working environment. Unfortunately, it is not possible to make all the necessary changes in a single day, and I wanted to be direct about the scale. So another thing of, we just want to be transparent. We just want to be direct. While it's not physically possible for them to be direct, they can't tell us everything. They're not going to tell us everything. And I wish they would really quit this harping on, it's just lip service of all this, we're being direct, we're being transparent. I think, everyone out there is saying this, you got to be a little bit different out here in this world, or you're going to get swept up in some of these things, I believe. Asha Sharma continuing, I know this is painful. These changes will directly affect people who have poured their creativity into building Xbox, which is true. Many joined us through acquisitions while others were recruited here or sought us out because they loved this industry and loved Xbox. Today's decision does not reflect their talent or dedication. Well, that is true, because you got to take everything on a case-by-case basis here. Our business today is not healthy. We are operating at margins that are 3 to 10 times lower than comparable platform and publishing businesses. And this is the thing that, you're sending this out to your employees. They don't care. And they care less than zero about these things, because they're being told they're losing their jobs. They're being told, hey, everything's up in the air right now. And that is a very unsettling feeling. And they don't care about the internal projections and things like that at this point in time. And I don't know why they continue to say these things to try to make people, tell this to your shareholders that they really value this information. But I think telling these things to the public is becoming worse, according to me, because it's trying to make people understand why you're making these decisions, and you need to just be a little more hardcore with your messaging as you are with your actual actions. I think those two things are not matching, which is, making some people question or be angry about what's going on over there. And that's including me. I think that's the biggest part about me, is just looking at how these things are handled. And I think they often are handled pretty poorly, and their messaging is often pretty poor too, is what I would say. Continuing the quote, we entered Gen 9 with a smaller install base and a higher cost structure. To grow, we bet on Game Pass, multi-platform, and a broader portfolio of content. So this is the Asha Sharma section of, sweeping all the bad moves under the rug and trying to, she has the benefit of being new there, so she wasn't involved. So she can, wipe her hands of those things. But this is them trying to, have everyone who's around there still have a little bit of, it's just trying to put some of the blame on other people is what they're doing, and trying to create anew with some of the people that are still around and pass the buck on those things and say, hey, this is a whole new time. And, I don't think that's the case. I think they're still in a giant hole here. And that was kind of the main takeaway I was trying to say from that part. So all their bad decisions, they bet on Game Pass, multi-platform, and a broader portfolio of content. While those businesses have created meaningful value, they did not grow at the pace we expected. They did not have infinite growth like these big companies demand. As that happened, our core business weakened, and we added more teams, more investment, and more time, hoping for a better outcome. And now the industry is facing the most severe hardware crisis in its history. We must reset Xbox. Okay, Xbox, okay. They say none of our first-party publicly announced games or projects are being canceled as part of these reductions. I want Xbox to be one of the few companies that entertains more than 1 billion people each day, which I don't think they even have 1 billion people each year is what I've heard, and gives everyone the opportunity to create and connect. I know we can achieve this goal. Xbox has many of the most beloved franchises in entertainment history, which I think that's an overstatement for sure. Talented studios around the world, and we will return to growth in 2027. History is full of companies that mistake longevity for inevitability. We will not be one of them. So that was a closer right there. They were getting off bars there, thinking they heard that from somewhere. Full of companies that mistake longevity for inevitability. And that's exactly what they've done. That's what everybody did around there. And that's what a lot of these companies have done. And it's just silly. They need to reconsider all of their internal businesses more quietly and come out with actions. They do a lot of talking, they do a lot of laying off, they do a lot of flowery language. They need to come out with some actions, and they haven't done so in a long time, and I don't expect anything great from them in the future. I think it's really, really bad timing over there for Xbox. I think Asha Sharma is coming in to be the new face who can not have the emotional connection to everybody to gut the business and see if there's any business there worth pushing forward with, which I don't know if they have any clear direction. I don't know if they have any one thing they can hang their hat on necessarily. And I think that's what they're trying to figure out. So I would say be wary of Xbox, and I'm sure we'll have more negative news to talk about Xbox as this show goes on, over the course of the weeks and months and probably years for Xbox. I think things are trending very, very down over there. Even though I do enjoy playing some games on an Xbox I own, I think their future sustainability is highly, 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 highly in question. All right, so let's talk about some of those studios that Xbox owns that are being affected. I think I got a pretty good summary of everything that's been official right now. Some of these things are still up in the air, but this should be a good summary of what's going on with these companies at this moment. So Ninja Theory is leaving Xbox and will be owned by a new company. I don't know if that has been officially announced to the public yet, but it seems like Senua is being funded by the new owner. They've made like a new social media page for Senua on its own, which I think that new game was announced last year possibly. And it seems like everything's okay there, but I would take all of these things with a grain of salt. A lot of these companies have to put on a brave face at the time of this breaking news, and whether or not that these projects will see the light of day or anything positive will turn out with these developers is still unknown, I would say. Undead Labs, they released a quote after some of this that says, "Today, Undead Labs will begin a new chapter. We're transitioning out of Xbox, and while we can't share all the details yet, we can tell you this. State of Decay 3 is still coming. The team is working hard, and our commitment to this community has never been stronger. More news soon. Survivors stick together." So that's the update from Undead Labs. Arkane Studios, the only word there is they are beginning required consultation with its works council to review potential strategic options. That is a very crazy way of just saying, hey, we're still trying to figure out what's going on with Arkane Studios and where they are going to rest. So it does seem like they're trying to avoid having to close some of these studios, but they are offering these studios up to be purchased, and that is kind of the scenario going on here with most of these. Obsidian Entertainment, according to Kotaku, 60 to 70 developers were already laid off, approximately 25% of the team, and this has been one of the most successful developers that they have picked up. They put out games like Avowed, Pentiment, The Outer Worlds, Grounded, etc. And they are also canceling an Avowed sequel to focus on Fallout per Bloomberg, and they are apparently working on a new Fallout game. So that's the update over there at Obsidian, and it looks like a 25% reduction on their team so far. Double Fine Productions, one of the most esteemed development studios in this list, they released a quote as well that says, "Once again, Double Fine Productions will be an independent studio. We're thankful to everyone at Xbox for 7 great years together and for working with us to reach an outcome which preserves our history and culture and returns ownership of our games to us. To everyone who has reached out to us these past few weeks, thank you so much for all your kind words. We've been deeply touched by all your messages. We will share more news on what comes next. Your continued support is greatly appreciated from Tim Schafer and all at Double Fine." So one thing I've heard that a good point is, hey, a lot of these developers are retaining their IP and ownership of their games, but at what cost? That's the thing we don't know. I don't think Xbox or Microsoft is just letting them walk away for free. So I would just be, cautious about giving Xbox a ton of praise there from where we stand right now until we have more details. I don't know if it's the most generous or just kind-hearted thing that they've been doing here with some of these deals. I think some of these studios are probably happy to get away with what they have and are scrambling a little bit to find a way forward. And I think that's probably the real reality for most of these studios, even with really, really iconic developers such as Double Fine. You got to have some funding, you got to pay your people, you got to have a plan in place. And, Xbox was footing the bill for a lot of these things, probably a little bit extra, a little bit just spend without having a strategy. And that's totally been the case over there at Xbox for the last, 5 years, decade, or whatever it's been. So that's the update on Double Fine. And then the last update I have from this round of layoffs is for Compulsion Games. So the quote from Compulsion Games is, "When Compulsion Games was founded in 2009 as an independent studio, we were just a few dreamers in a leaky old gramophone factory devoted to creating rich storylines and experiences that felt handcrafted. We care about the craft of making games, the stories we tell, the players who experience them, and the assembled creators who put their heart and soul into doing something different. Today we're sharing that Compulsion Games will return to independent management following our time as a part of Xbox. As part of this transition, we will retain the rights to Contrast, We Happy Few, and our award-winning South of Midnight. We're grateful for the years we spent with Xbox, for the support they provide to our team, and for the opportunity to bring these games to players around the world. As an independent studio, we're excited to continue building the distinctive games that define Compulsion while taking the next step in our journey. Our immediate priority is to support our team throughout this transition period. We are confident in the future of Compulsion Games and look forward to this next chapter where one thing will remain constant. We will create unique games that tell important stories, all with the goal of touching the hearts and minds of our players." So, me reading this, the one big takeaway I have from this kind of stuff is the independent aspect. I'm someone who creates a lowly podcast over here, an independent podcast. It's just me. I'm, the only one who's in charge of the topics, what I'm talking about, putting it out, everything above. And the example of Giant Bomb is one that I think about with this a lot. It's a definite reason of why I'm even podcasting today. But, Giant Bomb was an independent outlet and site for a long time in podcast. At some point, they saw a level of success that attracted, some outside investment. They sold the IP to a parent company that was going to come in and help them, grow the brand, give them some more resources, some more financial backing that they had just being out on their own. And, eventually the co-founder, creator of Giant Bomb, Jeff Gerstmann, was let go by that company that he sold his website to. And, that was over 3 years ago or whatever it may be. He started his own podcast, and that was around the time where I started Dep Lewis Show. So it's just one of those things that, I think about, hey, if I ever, became more successful as a podcaster, I think, the most important thing to me would be to remain independent. I would love to have some financial backing or support or, be making some more money. But I think, the most important thing to me for this is, I enjoy doing this. I've been doing it. I've been paying money to do this for years now, and I just enjoy doing it. It's one of my favorite things. And if I ever did have the benefit of seeing, some numerical or financial success from this, I hopefully would avoid some of these pitfalls. And I think the decision from going independent to the, selling or having a parent company is extremely crucial. I'm sure there's some situations where that has worked out and really benefited both parties, but I think there's far, far too many stories of that going south and going negative. And I think it has to do with the infinite growth thing. I think there is, not everything, or I don't think anything is going to have an infinite growth. And I think by the time some of these companies get a deal, maybe they've already kind of hit the heights of what they can do. And then when they get bought, the parent company can't really come in and change things too much. They can't just flip the button or the switch that really just immediately translates into more fans or more revenue or whatever it may be. And then that becomes the disconnect between the new company and the person who sold it. So, I hope that that's never a situation with me here with the Dep Lewis Show. That would always be my, I hope I would always lean towards, taking less and retaining more, I think would be the smartest play, the most strategic. And, especially in this video game world, we've seen lots of examples of these things going south. So, maybe some lessons in here that we can all learn from this giant corporation that's making these mistakes in real time. So that's everything I got for you for the updates on Xbox. A lot of poor news there. And, my thoughts and prayers to everybody involved in this. I think some of the worst things are being unsure of what's going on, especially of your job kind of thing, or being stressed or worried about that. I think it can really affect your life in a lot of ways. So, thoughts and prayers to all these people involved. And bad and shame on all these people making these high-level decisions that are affecting all these people, all the poor decisions that have been made. And, I'm sure a lot of those people aren't feeling the necessary guilt that they should be feeling from making some of these decisions that affected so many people and became so negative. So, bad on all those people. And, hopefully they are doing some self-reflecting as well amongst all the chaos that's being caused over there at Xbox. All right, so that's everything I got for you for the midsection of the show this week. We talked about Splatoon 3. We talked about Splatoon Raiders. We talked about some Nintendo Switch Online editions of Fortified Zone, Mario Land, Super Mario Land 3, The Sword of Hope 2, and Dr. Mario and the Puzzle League. We talked about Mario Kart Tour, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, Nintendo Switch 2, IO Interactive, the Xbox layoffs, including Ninja Theory, Undead Labs, Arkane Studios, Obsidian Entertainment, Double Fine Productions, and Compulsion Games. And that's everything I got for you for the midsection of the show this week. So, my apologies for all the layoff talk, but that has been very, very prevalent in the last few weeks. It is definitely interesting as someone who talks about video games to watch. It's definitely sad as someone who is a fan of the video game industry as a whole. And I don't think any of these things are going to be getting better for any time soon. I think a lot of these companies have made wrong gambles, and I think it's going to take them some time to dig out of the hole if they ever do dig out of the hole. But I haven't lost all hope. I think there are still some bright spots out there. I think there's still a lot of bright spots out there, in the world and in the video game world as well. But I think I think there's just a heavy cloud going over the video game industry right now, and it's definitely in one of its worst times, just in regards to the health of the industry and the way it's currently formed, is what I would say. So that's my thoughts on this, and I'll kind of keep you up, or I will keep you updated on all these changes and predicaments and things on this show. Always, that's the plan. So that's everything for the midsection of the show this week. That's all the video game news I want to talk about and all the video game thoughts in general. But there is still one final section of the show left to go. It's usually pretty short and sweet. It's the Miscellaneous Talk section, and I like to give you an update on what's happening with all my sports teams, and that will be the case after this music. Welcome back to the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 188. This is the Miscellaneous Talk section where I can talk about anything I want to outside of the video game world. So as always, I want to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. And starting off with the NFL, there's really nothing going on with my favorite team. It's the offseason for the Carolina Panthers. The only thing we're looking forward to as Panthers fans is the first preseason game, which is actually less than a month away, which is very exciting. And it's Thursday, August 6th. The Panthers at the Cardinals will be the first preseason game of all the preseason. That's going to be the Hall of Fame game. So get to see some Panthers football action in less than a month. That's very nice. And then moving on to the NBA, it's the offseason over there. The Knicks are the champions, which is still pretty crazy to realize. I'm a halfway fan of the Charlotte Hornets since I'm a North Carolina resident in the last couple of years. Nothing to report with them. It's the offseason, and it's all just kind of the downtime after the big LaMelo trade. It's like the resettling of the roster and I think resettling of the expectations for the Charlotte Hornets going into next season. They've done a little bit of a reset. So there's no guarantee that that's going to be positive or not, or positive in general. My favorite NBA team, the Atlanta Hawks, which is a little bit unfortunate because I've been sad or heartbroken about them since the Trae Young trade. It looks like they are going to trade Kuminga or allow him to sign elsewhere. I don't know if he's a complete free agent. I think maybe he picked up his option, but it just seems like he's going to not be an Atlanta Hawk next season, which I think is fine. I think the Hawks are in a great position to tear down the roster or build around the pieces that they have like chosen, which would be like Jalen Johnson and some of the younger guys. But they brought in Kuminga last year. A little bit of a strange move, and it seems like he was trying to command more money than Jalen Johnson, which I think would be a poor move for the Atlanta Hawks. So I think possibly trading him could be the right move, but I really do not understand the direction of the Hawks in general, but that has been the case for a very, very long time. And then my favorite team in the universe, the Atlanta Braves, are getting very, very close to the All-Star break. Today is actually the final game of the first half of the season, so that's going to wrap up after today. The players are going to, I think there's 5 Braves going to the All-Star game, and then everybody else in the Major League Baseball world is going to get a little bit of a break here for the mid-season. And also yesterday, the Major League Baseball draft took place. So I did look up the Braves' first pick. They took A.J. Garcia. He's a center fielder from Virginia. He was the 9th pick overall in the first round. He's a left-handed hitter who is very consistent, they're saying, and just maybe waiting on some more power. But they're basically saying that, he has played his college career like a pro. He is a high-level hitter. They were saying that he most likely would end up in a corner outfield spot based on maybe some arm strength kind of thing. They were saying most likely, and I guess with the Braves, him being a 21-year-old on the roster, I think Money Mike's going to be around for a long time. So getting him in one of those corners would probably be the right move in regards to the Atlanta Braves. But it seems very good. Seems like he is a professional. It just made it seem like he was very, very consistent, very, very good in college. And they were saying that his floor was very low. They kind of know what to expect from him already, but how high his ceiling can go is the question. So, shout out to you, AJ Garcia. Congratulations. And, welcome to the Atlanta Braves, the best team in the universe. And then just an update on the games that since I've talked to you last weekend. The Braves were playing Sunday versus the Mets. It was a 12:30 game on NBC and Peacock, and the Braves lost 9-10. So the Braves have still been skidding a little bit going into the second half of the season, and that was kind of the case last week as well. Monday, I thought this was an off day, which I reported last week, but it was actually not. There was actually an extra game from the weekend, or it was a Friday start, but it had a Monday end, which is just kind of unusual during the baseball season. But I guess this was a scheduling thing, getting close to the break was my guess. But so the Braves did play last Monday versus the Mets, and the Braves lost 6-7 in 10 innings. So they lost in extras, which is always sad. And then the Braves were playing Pittsburgh up in Pittsburgh after that. So Tuesday at the Pirates, the Braves lost 4-2. Wednesday at the Pirates, the Braves won 3-0. And Thursday at the Pirates, the Braves won 10-5. So a pretty good outing there against the Pirates. And then moving on to the weekend, the Braves have been in St. Louis, and they've been having some trouble over there with the Cards like they were last week. So the Braves lost on Friday night 1-2, and the Braves lost last night 1-4. So the Braves, after last night's game, are 54-40. They only have a 2-game lead now on the Phillies in the NL East, and only 3 games ahead of the Marlins, which I didn't realize the Marlins were having that successful of a season for them as well. So a little bit of action, or a lot of bit of action actually in the NL East, and that's going to be a tight race seemingly for the second half of the season. The Braves are playing the Cards in St. Louis today to finish off the first half of the season at 2:15. So that's about 4 hours away from real time, so I'll be excited to watch that as always. And then next week, the Braves are off until Friday for All-Star break. And then Friday through Sunday of next week, the Braves are going to be playing the Rangers in Atlanta to kick off the second half of the season. So go Braves. It's been a really great first half of the season. I know it's been a down couple weeks going into the second half, but I think I guess if you think about it, that could be explainable or whatever. They've had a really great season, a lot of high highs. They started off pretty hot, a little bit of a regression here going into the break where maybe, these players are looking forward to the break. I'm sure all the players are looking forward to the break. So I don't really take that as too much of a cautionary tale. I think if they come out of the break cold, I think that could be time to worry, but we will see. So they've been doing generally pretty good. First in the NL East, can't be mad, and just happy to be a Braves fan today as always. So go Braves. All right, so that's everything I got for you for this final section of the show. We talked about all my favorite teams, the Carolina Panthers, the Charlotte Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Braves. So that's going to wrap up this final section, and that's going to wrap up the entire show. So I'd like to reiterate some promotional talk from the beginning. Please follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly, and always guarantee that you get the podcast ad-free. There is 99 out of 100 slots available on the ground floor tier. So there are 2 tiers right now on the Patreon. They both will allow you to get the same amount of access, but the ground floor tier is for the first 100 people only that sign up. It will never change in price. That's the deal of the century. If any additional content ever gets added to Patreon or additional tiers, that one price will remain the same, so you'll get a discount forever. And then the more standard price will be the $3 of the standard tier. So, please go check me out over there on Patreon. It's kind of more of a future facing platform for me. Hopefully I can get some more listeners one day to this podcast. And if you'd like to support me over there, I think that's the best way to do so. So please go check me out on patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show. And just thank you so much for listening. I don't know if I said this last one. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. But I certainly just appreciate your listening. That's the best thing you can do for me. I really appreciate it. This is one of my favorite things I do during the week. I have so much fun preparing this show and bringing the news and my thoughts to you each week. So just thank you so much for listening. I truly do appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful week out there in the world. If things are going your way, I hope that continues. If things are not going your way, I hope that changes. I'll be seeing if I'll be playing some more Forza Horizon 6 in the upcoming week. I'm sure I will be, but I guess I can't say I'm sure. We'll see. I kind of feel like I've completed a good portion, and we'll see how much more completion area I want to get. I most likely will be playing some more Pokemon. I'm always poking around with some other games. I played a little bit of Pragmata in the last week, picked up some of that again, and you just got to stay tuned as always to know what's going on with me. And I will be back next week to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful week, and goodbye.